Hello everyone and welcome to episode 8 of the From Surviving to Thriving video interview series, stories of real people overcoming real adversity so they can share tips with you, the audience, on how they overcame what they went through. So today I have with me Ania Mosor, and I'll leave it to you, Ania, to introduce yourself and talk a bit about the adversity that has led you to where you are today.
Thank you, Carly. So I'm Ania. I'm a single mum of two, 7 and 2 are my girl and boy. God, I feel a bit, on the spot here. My adversities, gosh. My most recent is I left my family home with my children last year after a number of years of really struggling with addiction challenges in my family, in my household at the time. And it got to the stage where I no longer recognized who I was as a person, as I wasn't living the life that I had intended to. I wasn't providing for my children the way I intended to. It was a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, a lot of unknowns. It got to the stage where I was fearing for my life and for the life of my children. And I had to leave at the end of the day. The tools that I had, I have family, which is, it's a godsend to have family nearby. In saying that, I didn't divulge everything to them, so they don't know the ins and the outs of everything that took place. They're there as a sanctuary, really. If I need to go and have a place to stay, take the kids, just need to have some space, I had a safe sanctuary to do that. And I understand not everyone has the ability to do that. In saying that, friends, I have many amazing friends, but one in particular who opened her doors to me anytime, day, night, for whatever length of time I needed. And that's been available to me, for almost a decade. And that in itself is, again, priceless. So I've had friends and family nearby that have helped me in the time of real need. I have at times, because of the addiction issues that we had in the household, it was difficult to have conversations with friends, family, on the phone, be on the computer, without my actions being misconstrued, misinterpreted, and a big eruption of emotion. And for the most part, when my partner was at home at the time, I would really just be quite secluded, keep myself occupied with chores and kids. Got quite down. It was very difficult for me. Things escalated, unfortunately, and I had to leave. Yeah.
Did you find that you were stepping into the role of a carer during that relationship, would you say?
At the time, I didn't know that. I've been caring for the person who I love, still do. I have deep respect for him. He's the father of my children. He's a fantastic father. Addiction, unfortunately, took hold. At the time, I didn't realise from the very beginning, I took on that carer's role, looking out for them, looking after them, picking things up that they missed. And it's not until having really left last year that I've been able to reflect on my own habits that have formed over the years that don't serve me, don't serve my children, that are holding me back. And I've been able to recognise that I have taken on that caring role, that I've taken on that person's problems, I've taken on what they're projecting as my own problems and trying to fix it for them where it's really not my job.
Yeah. So, often when people are in that caring role for someone who's going through addictions, you become really isolated, you become just not yourself anymore. It's easier not to talk to anyone about it than to actually divulge that kind of information. And equally, you don't want to put your partner down in case it all works out. And, I've been there. It's not a nice place to be in. And what I found was that whenever I went for any kind of healings or anything like that, literally his whole energy had engulfed my energy. And it's like you say, you just weren't the person that you are anymore. So
Mm-hmm.
what would you say that was a really subtle progression over the years? Or, you know, was there a time when you kind of just looked in the mirror and just didn't recognize yourself anymore?
Gosh. There were cycles. There were peaks and troughs. So there were instances where we seemed to be getting along, things seemed to be humming along nicely, we were getting ahead, and then suddenly things would take a dive. During the peaks and the troughs, I was finding myself disappearing bit by bit. And doing that, and again, this is just reflecting back, I didn't realize that at the time. There were instances where I would just suddenly have like this lightning bolt moment and go, hang on a minute, that's not right. And I'd try to stand up for myself, and it would usually end up in a heated conversation, not even a conversation, just be a heated argument with very little resolution. Or both of us feeling much worse. And yeah, the pit in which we were in was only getting deeper and deeper. Yeah.
What was it that kept you there, would you say?
Hope. I was, and continue to be forever hopeful that, but it was hopeful that I could help him overcome the addiction. We attempted, there were 3 attempts to try and beat the addiction together. The support that I was giving him wasn't the support he needed. And we weren't able to have the conversations to figure out what it was that he needed, and how it was that I could change or adapt in order to help or not. So yeah, the conversations weren't taking place. Yeah.
And often it becomes less about what they need and what they actually want to do, doesn't it? Because there's a whole range of things that they need, really. But if they're not ultimately ready to step up and go there, then we can do as much as we can do as partners, but it's not going to end up well for us, is it?
No, and it hasn't, unfortunately.
What was the breaking point, I suppose, that led you to leaving?
Over the years, there's been the peaks and the troughs. Where it got really bad, I did leave. So I have regularly left for a day or two, usually over the course of a weekend. So he was used to that. So it didn't really sink in for him that I really meant what I was saying, which was, I've had enough. I'm really done. I'm empty. I'm drained. I have nothing more, no more energy to give and not be replenished. That's another, I'm working on that myself. It's the incident that led me to finally really not cut cords, but face myself in the addictive relationship was when I felt utterly abandoned. There was an incident that occurred with our youngest child. He had a head injury, and so I ended up in hospital with my youngest because he was suffering. He had concussion, signs of concussion. And this was quite early in the morning, about 10, 11 o'clock on a Friday morning, early last year. And we'd made arrangements to meet each other. He was going to come to the hospital. And instead he was, he was soothing himself with his own addiction. So I felt utterly abandoned with 2 children. I felt I had no support from him, and we didn't really matter. I needed his help, I needed his support, and I wasn't getting it. So it was just like, I can't keep doing this, I've got to go. I did leave. However, it was so abrupt. I was really concerned about the impact it would have on my eldest child, who was at primary school at the time. And he sought his his third round of assistance to beat the addiction. And I said to him, this is the last straw. You know, we've got to, if we're going to give it a go, we've really got to give it a go for this year. And I'm giving it a year. That's what I can only give you another year. Give us another year. Not him. It was us, our family. And unfortunately, whilst he was doing his best at the time to follow the instructions in order to beat the addiction, his heart wasn't in it. And then he had another incident. He had lost his mother within a few weeks of us separating and coming back together again. And then the month thereafter, he lost his job. So things compounded for him, and it got to the stage where, in July, I had to make the decision he had left the country, and I decided that should he return, it was unknown whether he would return at the time, that I couldn't maintain living in that household with no support. So I left.
No Would you say that was your darkest time, or was there a time that's different from that? Or your darkest moment, what was the darkest moment in your head about the situation?
Yeah, it was definitely January the 15th last year. That was the darkest moment where my heart literally felt crushed beyond repair. It was just, that feeling of I need you. I don't have you. I don't have your support. Just to be there. So that was, I'll forever remember that day, unfortunately.
And when it comes to addictions, you know, it's a misguided attempt to recover for someone else. You know, when it's often not enough of a motivator for people to get better. And so they really have to come from, like you say, his heart wasn't in it. Their heart is only in it when they're really 100% doing it for themselves above anybody else. Because, you know, otherwise you slip back into those old patterns really easily, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. And look, I had mentioned that to my partner, my ex-partner, a number of times, that don't do this for me, don't do this for your children. You know, if it's something that's really true to you, it's first and foremost, it's for yourself that you're doing this, that you're beating addiction, you're getting a better quality of life. And the gift of that to your family and everyone around you is your presence. You're present there in the moment. And we've got the best, the best form of father, husband, partner, brother. It didn't sink in until I left officially.
What would you say you gave up, sacrificed for him or for the relationship in terms of physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually? What have you given up over that period of time?
Again, being in the relationship, it wasn't very clear to me. It's not since having left that I've been able to reflect on it. And anything I gave up, it was a choice I made. I had sacrificed his time with my children. I had sacrificed time with my partner, quality time with my partner. I had given up, or rather, became very flexible with my boundaries. Very flexible to accommodate him.
Flexible, or did you not have any for him?
With the peaks and troughs, they would come and go. They would strengthen, and then they would just sort of break open. But they weren't strong enough to, I didn't maintain them. Saying that, I'm working on my boundaries even to this day, and one, identifying them, because I haven't got them all down packed, and being clear in portraying them and in what my boundary is, and not making it about the other person, but rather myself. So yeah, I gave up my boundaries, really. Time with children, time with him, quality time. Yeah.
How do you found it impacted you physically, mentally, and emotionally?
Oh, physically, I was a ball of an anxious mess, really. I'd lost a lot of weight. I was under a fair bit of stress. Physically, I was a shadow of my former self. Mentally, my mind was buzzing 100 miles an hour. I couldn't sleep at night. When I did sleep, it was very restless. My thoughts were jumbled. They weren't succinct. They weren't logical. I had to write a lot of things down, which I do anyway, but I had routines that I stuck by that would help me get through the day, that will help me keep me occupied. And structure and routine were really important to help me stay on track. Emotionally, I in those down moments, in those pitfalls, I was distraught. I was heartbroken. I still am heartbroken for the position we are in today, but at the same time, I'm grateful because we're able to communicate on a much higher level, a lot more respectful than we were in the past. Emotionally, because I don't have the physical impacts of the anxiety and the stress, and my mind's clearer, emotionally, I'm able to actually peel through the layers and really get to my heart space and start loving again. It's as though my heart sort of, although it was crushed, it became cold and hard, and it's like coming back to life again. So, yeah.
What does that feel like? That coming back to life feeling?
Joyful at times, and other times, very teary. I don't know whether it's sad. Yeah, you're sad as well, because you're reflecting on what's been lost, and at the same time grateful for your children, your life, the smallest of things. You've got a roof over your head, you've got clothes to wear, you've got somewhere to stay. You have your health, you have your family. The fact that you get to wake up and you're just grateful.
Yeah, I really found that when I left that kind of caring role, that that's all stuff that you can't see when you're literally living moment to moment, not sure what's going to come next. Definitely not taking care of yourself because you're just too busy taking care of other people, and you can't step into that feeling of gratitude because it's just such a big gap, from where you're currently at. So how long has it been now since you left?
So he left the country last July, and I left literally within a couple of weeks of that. So the 3rd of July last year. So we're in now March, so 9 months.
So talk to me about some of the tools, processes, actions that you've been taking to, I guess, start processing that grief, because we do go through the stages of grief, don't we, when we end a relationship. So what have you been doing that's been about nourishing yourself and coming out of that period of burnout? Or I would assume that you were pretty burnt out when you left.
Yes.
What have you implemented since leaving?
The very first thing that I did, my first action after having left, was to reconnect with my children. So I actually took them on a holiday. We went to Singapore. We had 10 glorious days with my wonderful girlfriend and her family in Singapore, where I had the time to be able to process, I guess, the beginning stages of the grief, really, of loss, the loss of what was, what could have been, future, dreams, ideas that sort of you hold on to. And I had also started having conversations with my eldest daughter, who was 6 at the time, and explaining to her, or rather just sharing with her, it wasn't really explaining, it was just sharing with her the feelings I was having, and how really sad I was at the time, and how I wasn't the best, I felt I wasn't the best person that I could possibly be as a mum, as a sister, as a partner, as a wife, and so forth. And I really wasn't happy, and Dad and I weren't treating each other very nicely. And she actually responded to me, and she said, well, why do we have to go back? Kids, it's they see things really quite clearly, and it's just like, well, it's simple. Why do we go back then, if that's... And so I sat on that, and I sort of replied to her, and I said, yeah, well, actually, that's how I'm feeling. I'm feeling I don't want to go back. And so we built on that. We came home, and we've settled. We're into a routine. She's in a new school. So the processes really have been to relocate, to seek oils. Oils have been our saviour. Every night we diffuse our oils. Every morning we dress in oils. At night, I say to my daughter now, she goes to bed with her oils on. My youngest, Roddy, he does his oils as well. Not as much as Poppy does, because his routine hasn't changed as much as Poppy's, where she's literally left the house, gone to a new school, isn't living under the same roof as Dad, and she feels that more than her younger brother. And his environment hasn't changed. He's with the same carers. He sees his dad now really the same amount of time that he had previously, but it's quality time as opposed to sort of on and off and what have you. Maintaining friendships and connections with friends is I have found to be really important, because I still find myself wanting to seclude myself and fall into the victim mind state where I'm still in that old relationship. It's one of the habits that I'm trying to overcome. So I've got a girlfriend that I meet up regularly for a movie night, and we do that once a month. Self-care. So it's something as simple as putting face cream on in the morning. Tools. Meditation. Both Poppy and I, my oldest, we share a room at the moment, and so I'm reconnecting with her on levels that I as a mother feel I hadn't previously. It's a bit of that mother guilt as well.
Well, it's hard to be connected to anyone or anything, isn't it, when you're just living in survival mode, really, when you're in fight or flight. Absolutely. And it's and she also has the after effects of being in that relationship as well, unfortunately. So she's got a number of habits that she's adopted, and that we're both working through. Mindfulness, breathing, breath, sound and movement is a big one for us. That's great.
Music.
That you're teaching her those skills at her age, really, really
look, and the thing is, when I think about it, and I think back to when she was born, I was doing that with her. That was 7 years ago, 6 years ago. We were doing that. We were doing the breath, sound, movement. We were out in nature. We were doing all that, and over time it just disappeared. So we're getting back into that. Touch is a big one. Hugs, just sitting and, you know, even doing nothing, just being in each other's presence, and you know, whether it's a massage or a, an experience that she's had or an idea that's coming to mind. Yeah, so the tools have been predominantly breath, sound, movement, various one day or weekend courses for myself to reconnect with self, and it's mostly to do with feminine, understanding both my healthy and unhealthy feminine as well as masculine, and really being able to identify with them, and live a much more happier life without all that crap
stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff that doesn't matter. And also
Yeah.
what I've found is that self-worth plays such a massive part in the recovery as well. You know, really going deeper than self-care, but really exploring how you feel about yourself, those feelings of worthiness or worthlessness and lack of self-love, you know, which is that's a long-term exploration right there, isn't it? And because ultimately, would we keep ourselves essentially trapped in a relationship if we 100% loved, honored, respected, nourished and loved ourselves, you know? Generally the answer is no to that, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, fortunately, the blog post you actually made last week, it really hit a note with me, a nerve, I should say. That idea of self-worth, it's like, well, what is that? How I'm here to serve others and I serve others, but what has that got to do with me? It's really flipped my thinking and made me realize that I've really compromised my self-worth to help others, serve others, and it shouldn't be done at the expense of yourself. And look, bear in mind, when I think about it, when I really, really go through the layers, because I'm doing the spiral program as well, where it's ingrained it's been ingrained in me from a very young age, where mum sacrificed a lot of herself to provide for her family and her kids, and the tragedies that she went through and adversities in her life that have shaped the way that I think of myself as a reflection of how I was brought up. And self-worth is a big one, not just for me, but most of the women in my family.
Yeah, we often mimic the circumstances that we were raised in, you know, and a lot of our limiting beliefs aren't even ours, they're our parents. So it's we're all a work in progress, aren't we?
Oh, absolutely.
So what are you doing currently to really nurture yourself and really love yourself?
I've embarked on a tantric journey. I embarked on this back in 2012 and not really progressed much further up until I left last year. So quite some time ago. And so I'm doing a live tantra course where you really peel back the layers and really get into a heart space and honoring yourself. Which is it's the best gift I can give myself. I'm also working on really getting to the crux of what my life purpose is. My sole purpose is to serve people. It is that, but not at the expense of my own self-worth. That I've realized that, and so it's really expanding my understanding of what I'm really good at, how I can apply what I'm good at into serving others with confidence, because the confidence aspect is also gone, which links back to self-worth. So it's this
it takes a while to build up that confidence after the end of a pretty hectic relationship like that, doesn't it? It takes time.
It does,
as long as it takes.
does.
Yeah,
there's no limit.
So if there's someone watching this in the audience who finds themselves in a similar position to what you faced in the past, what advice would you have for them right now?
Oh goodness. Look, I was for years I was reading advice. For years I was taking on advice. For years I've seen a psychiatrist, and it's unfortunate that usually when a person finds themselves in a situation, a relationship where there's addiction issues, they don't have to, sorry. It usually is their breaking point that they reach, where they finally make the decision based on all the advice they've read or they've heard to go. That breaking point is different for everyone. And some people can get severely injured in that process. And I've reflected myself on, had I have known what I know now, would I have even maintained the relationship? And you know, if I think of it like that, then I wouldn't have my two wonderful children, or three really, amazing children. So I'm blessed with my children. I wouldn't know what I know now had I not have been through that relationship. It is a gift to me to have experienced that.
So would you change anything?
It's really, if I didn't have children, perhaps I would, but I wouldn't change anything for the world. I have as difficult as the relationship was, they were the choices that I made, that I was prepared to live with, until I hit my breaking point. And if I didn't have children, what I would change is more personal development prior to committing to a relationship, is really understanding what my boundaries are and being clear about them. This is what I'm trying to teach my daughter, is about boundaries and self-care, self-love, that she is important, that you don't, ideally it's not the position to be in to sacrifice your own self-worth for someone else, for someone else's gratification, for someone else's joy. It's very depleting of the soul. But that's my journey. It's really difficult to give advice when don't stop talking. As difficult as it is, I know how difficult it was for me to talk, because you don't want to be airing your dirty laundry. To have just the one confidant, someone who will protect you, is by far the biggest gift a friend can give you. And we do feel guilty when we call on our friend, when we stay with them, and we want to, we want to do things for them for having put them out, but they're not being put out by opening up their home to us, or having a cup of tea or chocolate cake at midnight or things like that. I find it really difficult to give advice other than have if you're strong enough, leave as early as you can. Don't put your life in danger. If you're able to recognize where the danger is, don't be afraid to call your friends. Maybe that confidant of yours. You don't necessarily have to have 10, half a dozen friends. It's usually that one person.
Yeah, that's great advice. So I know that you're on your own personal journey and kind of discovering your passion and your purpose in terms of helping other people. So can you tell us a bit more about that and how people can contact you if they want to connect?
Certainly. I have I work holistically at a sort of a vibrational level with respect to oils and healing. Predominantly oils. I use them in my life. I've used them in my children's lives for now since Roddy was born, so just over 2 years. And I found a huge benefit, especially so since we left our family home last year. So my business name is Pure Vibrance. You'll find me on Facebook. And so I juggle that in and around my corporate role at the moment, which I hope to in future be able to close the door on and provide additional services with respect to my holistic vibrational business, and that is baby massage and hypnotherapy. And that again is a work in progress this year. So, but by all means, any information you'd like, feel free to connect with me, and I can share with you some more info.
Awesome. Baby massage must be amazing.
I've realized that it's going to be quite a while before I have a baby in my life again, and as much as I would love to carry my own babies, I don't see that happening in the near future. And in any way that I can help a mother, a first-time mother, a second, third, fourth, fifth-time mother, by just being present for her during her pregnancy, thereafter, it's an absolute gift. Yeah. And I have to mention that is as a result of the doulas I've had in the past, who have been absolutely amazing.
Yeah, so will you offer pregnancy massage as well?
I'm looking into it.
Yeah.
So at this point in time, not yet, but I'm looking into it.
I love being able to do Reiki treatments on pregnant women. It's absolutely amazing. I did a session on a friend of mine who was carrying twins a couple of weeks before her twins were due, and I did a session on her and on the twins, and it was just so cool with all those different energies in the same energy, you know. Yeah, so
joyful. My goodness, I can.
Thank you so much, Ania, for joining us today. I really appreciate you sharing your story. I know from having gone through a similar experience that it's not an easy one to share. It's, you know, it's still only 9 months that you've kind of left that situation, so it's still pretty raw in that time frame as well, isn't it? And
very much so.
Huge kudos to you for leaving and for now focusing the time and care and attention and love that you put into that relationship on yourself and your kids now, because that will, you know, that will result in miraculous things in your life. And I really look forward to seeing you shine. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And thank you to everyone watching this. So this has been episode 8. If you want to get in touch with Ania, then you can do so via her Pure Vibrance page on Facebook. And if you want to get in touch with me about anything to do with going from surviving to thriving, then feel free to do so via my Coach Carly page on Facebook. I look forward to seeing you for episode 9. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for joining me today for my video interview series From Surviving to Thriving, stories of real people overcoming real adversity. If you're currently going through a situation that you're struggling to cope with right now, some kind of change or trauma in your life, maybe that's happened in your past and you're struggling to deal with, then I'm here for you, either via one-on-one coaching or through my online coaching program From Surviving to Thriving, which I put together based on my own experiences of overcoming adversity and with the clients that I have worked with, helping them through their tough times. This is a combination of tools, quick and easy tools that will help you to transform your life, help you shift out of that negative mindset and into neutralising those negative emotions so that you can cope with what's going on and create a better life for yourself. Head on over to my website, coachcarly.com, where you'll find all the information you'll need. And if you want to get in touch, feel free to do so via the contact page on my website. I look forward to hearing from you soon.